StarTides, which was founded by Lynn Wells. He's the former CIO for the Department of Defense. His work has taken him looking at how we do humanitarian operations in a different way. How do we get all the players working together and start building a resilient, sustainable, affordable infrastructure for doing this internationally? Part of that is discussions with other folks in other agencies, and coming out of Haiti, what we saw was an incredible explosion of geospatial activity, crowdsourcing. This is the OpenStreetMap, this is Ushahidi. What happened, really, the government was unprepared to see, because the groups came together were over 1,000 people contributed to OpenStreetMap alone, and turned OpenStreetMap from something that was just not quite a blank spot, but into something that had maps of every IDP camp, named every road, marked every damaged building in Port-au-Prince. Really an incredible resource. Now, one of the things that there are discussions about right now is figuring out, in the US government, how do we take the dreams like we had with the moonshot, land a man on the moon by the end of the decade, and put them to some of the other big challenges. Some of the challenges that have already been articulated include sequence the genome for every known cancer, build an exascale supercomputer. So these are way out, can you do this? But the thing is that they're contests like the DARPA Challenge. They're meant to foster innovation, and someone actually has to evaluate whether a person made it, like the X Prize. There's you either got into orbit or you didn't get into orbit, and you have to define what orbit means. Otherwise, you run across the problem of, well, I think I did it, and you don't think I did it, and you have some kind of problem. So what we're looking at doing in Crisis, can we phrase a geospatial grand challenge? Like, what would be a means of putting out a moonshot? Like, what goal would we set for ourselves in a crisis to have in terms of situational awareness, imagery, ability to stack up and connect with people on the ground and make sense out of location in a way that would work, in a way that's measurable, in a way that would probably take companies that currently have products and platforms and push them and do something else. The hope is to be able to put this into literally phrase it into a challenge that we can start maybe convincing folks to put into a list and then fund and put a prize there. So how many people here, what are the backgrounds? Can we just sort of go around since we're a small group?
I'm a web developer, so I have degrees in anthropology and CS. Yeah. So I have the interest in other cultures from the anthropology degree area, but I also have the engineering skills as the basis of being a web developer. So.
Gotcha. Cool. I'm a web developer and designer working with a nonprofit called Medan that does bilingual stuff, and Ushahidi, and designing a project called Swift for crowdsourced information management.
I'm Barry Chow. I'm an embedded systems developer. I'm actually helping out with Computer Society locally here, and we're thinking of trying to put on a coding programming challenge, a contest later this year. So I came looking for ideas.
Oh yeah, I should mention Swift is designing a contest as well.
Oh.
I'm Kate Patton. I'm a programmer. I do a lot of data and geographic data stuff.
I'm also a programmer. I guess I've been a little more in the video side, but also mapping and more old stuff.
PHP developer for web apps.
I was a mechanical engineer, and I went from CAD to GIS, and then from GIS to web programming.
Well, you go first, then I'll go. Let me get your picture.
I'm a user experience designer and web developer. I come from Spain, and apart from doing commercial projects, I also
doing some things related to open data, promoting that, and we are setting up a contest also, like an apps for America, but in Spain. And
Great.
And I'm Tish Shute and worn a few hats, entrepreneur hat, worked in film for many years, and even was an academic for a little while. Only went PhD ABD, and that was enough for me. But I've actually worked on a Lunar X entry, so I know some things about, I have some sort of a little bit of experience about how that can be limiting when it's done wrong, and what that, I know a little bit about the Lunar X challenge because I helped early stage to put entry together. So.
And to be able, this was for a launch vehicle, or is this?
Well, actually it was just putting a team together. I have an old friend from back in the day who has a very, very big collection of space junk. It's not really junk, you know. And so was working with looking at that. But I mean, it's just an interesting problem. It sets up a big prize like that because if you really know, you know, space, the moon is the last place you want to go. Why you pick the moon is because that's the place you can put these kind of business teams together to enter that kind of contest. So that actually, you know, people who really would be kind of innovators would be probably dealing with asteroids, or, you know, it's an interesting problem that if you take the you know, those kinds of challenges as a frame to spur innovation, sometimes because they have to be framed a certain way, they actually pick sort of, you know, a frame. I mean, and the other thing, you had to have all this video equipment on your vehicle. I mean, I studied the rules quite clearly, and that's what you have to be really careful of, because in order to make the competition work, you set up a rule set, but that rule set actually stifled innovation, and you had to have such a heavy payload because everything had to be documented and videotaped. They picked the moon because that's where there's already a lot of private development on various things, so it suited the companies that could actually make entries. I mean, it's all these kind of things. I think that's really interesting, is like what you do about that, because, I mean, you know, how do you create a rule set that can be, you know, support, I mean, that people can actually make an entry that's really big thinking, right, really, because in the end, the thing that stopped us was not that we probably couldn't raise the money, because he was one of the lead was willing to sell portions of his space collection that mounted up to many millions, much more than the prize. But the fact was, didn't want to do it, didn't want to go to the moon, because the moon, if you wanted to set up a long-term, you know, kind of space business, the moon's a reasonable place to be thinking about. But if you're really an innovator, it wasn't very interesting. In the end, it wasn't worth it to him. Didn't need to do, and it wasn't innovative. You couldn't, within those rules, do anything that would make a difference. You could foster it's a move to private. It was a move to encourage private space industry, right? Not a move to you know. I think it's interesting. Compare your framing with the X Prize. So that's what I think the challenge is, really, is like, how do you create something that big that encourages big thinking but isn't designed to actually stifle creativity to suit, what you call it, our conventional industry.
It's also, you have to think about whether you want it to happen at all, or to be happen in a solution that actually can be used. For example, the whole scaling issue we have in the web, you know. Come up with a great piece of code, but if you can't scale it, it may not be very useful. Right. So the same thing, you know, if you can cure cancer, but it costs, you know, $300 million for each patient. You only could have a few people in the world who can use it.
There's another aspect to talk about, you know, prevention, you know, or preparation, that, you know, it's people who are making peace as opposed to war, you know, it's that kind of aspect. How do you deal with something that won't cause a crisis to happen even, you know, so that's where you were getting your biggest bang for the buck too. So it's anyway, that's another.
Sorry if I missed this. How big is it? Do we have a pile of money to give away to somebody, or is this
The
a
U.S. government
prestige?
is looking at what amount it wants to put against various challenges.
Yeah.
So, in a sense, it's almost symbolic, because I have a feeling it will cost the winning party probably more than the prize, as it's always had, it seems, with DARPA.
Yeah.
It always does, doesn't it? Like the
Yeah.
X Prize is, what, 7 million if you do it on time, and it would definitely, we priced it out as a minimum of 10 plus to do it.
So what's the goal? Is it a generic humanitarian geospatial issue, or?
The goal is actually something